All right, so as we look here at Module 1, you're going to notice that the first thing that we're going to have is the CSWA exam. Now, first and foremost, I do have my first chunk, my first due date for the CSWA exam. If we look at our calendar, you're going to notice that it is 2 weeks out from today. That's the max window that I can set with SolidWorks, okay? So right here, on the, oh, I'm sorry, it's a month. On the 18th of September, it's the longest that I can put, like they call it, an opportunity to take the test, okay? So that's on there right now, but that's about a month away. So you have within that month to do it. Now, if you don't feel comfortable and you're not ready to take it, you don't have to take it by then. I'm going to also put another chunk out after that for anybody who needs a little bit of extra time for the last 4 weeks of the term. So between now and the end of the term, I want you to make an attempt at the CSWA exam, okay? And hopefully pass it. If you don't pass it, you can retake it in 14 days, 2 weeks after. Alex. We'll look at that in just a bit, but that's, I just wanted to let you know that that's out there. So there's kind of going to be two time frames for which you can do it. So let's look specifically at the exam. So I'll go back to the module here. So a couple things. First of all, there's a start here. You'll notice that it says module overview and helpful videos. So if I click on here, the module overview is going to be what we're going to be looking at here today. And then you're going to notice that, so I'm going to be replacing this one with, this was the old one that I had out there. And then you're going to notice the second one says setting up SolidWorks files. You're going to have to put in material. You're going to have to do a couple things with some other variables to be able to take the test. So that's going to be that. Another thing that you're going to have to do is going to be global variables, okay? So those two videos, one is 4 minutes long, okay? So not terribly long, and the other one is 11 minutes long, okay? These are subjects that I don't think were specifically covered in the first SolidWorks class. So they're just little things that you just have to be aware of, okay? So I encourage you to watch that. Then you're going to notice that there is a fourth video out here, and this is a full demo of the practice exam and how to do it. Okay, this is actually something I found and I used as practice when I was studying. I did pass the CSWA exam. And this was the same video that I use. It's another instructor actually at another college who goes through it. So kind of silly for me to redo it. So it's out there and it's the same practice exam. So the practice exam, I'm going to go back over here. That is going to be down here. So we'll talk about the sample or the practice exam in a little bit. Now, getting back to Alex's question, you might have some questions like, how much is it? Do I have to pay a fee? It's actually free to take the exam because you're a WCTC student. So I applied to SolidWorks, let them know that I was running this class and I wanted to offer this to my students and they take SolidWorks. So I got approved to be an exam proctor, if you would. And so because you're students in my class, you get this test for free. If you weren't a student and you took it outside of the time that you're here at WCTC, then you would just have to pay. It's not terribly expensive. It's $99 to take the exam, but it's every time that you would take it. So if you don't pass, you have to, do that again. In here, if you don't pass, it's free and you can just take it again. Okay. When can you take it? So our like time frame is to the end of the term, but like I said, I only can keep the window open for a month at a time. Okay, so we're going to have like two chunks of time. We'll kind of see how many people get done with it in the first month, and then how many people get done with it in the second month. Okay, and by that time, everybody should have enough time to do it. Where can I take it? You can take it either here at WCTC, okay, in the room, or you can do it on your personal computer. So if you download SolidWorks, locally loaded version of SolidWorks, you cannot use the Aporto version. So you can't do that logging on to a computer here from an off-campus site. You have to have a locally loaded version on whatever machine you're going to do. Okay. So doing it here or on your own is good. Now, You have 4 hours to, or you should plan for 4 hours to take the exam, kind of to get set up, do some downloading, and then 3 hours for the actual test. It's a timed test. You can't stop. So if you start that test, you have 3 hours to get it done. You can't like stop it and then do something and come back to it. All right. It's a solid 3 hours. Also, if you don't have great internet connection, maybe off-site at your home or wherever you would want to take it, if you lose internet connection, you're kind of done. Okay. You can't control that. So again, being on site, is reliable, but if you have reliable internet, you should be good. Also, it's a good idea to have dual monitors. You can pull up the exam on one monitor and you can be doing the work on the other. Okay. If you only have one, I don't know, I think it's kind of hard to do it on a laptop because now you're flipping through windows rather than having it right there. I think it's just a better environment. Yeah. And so you have 3 hours to take it. Now, if you want to take it during one of our class times, that's fine. But if you're in the room here with me, then we're going to have to make sure everybody's quiet and that you're absolutely not working with anybody else. If you're off campus, I can't control that, but on your honor, I expect that you're doing it on your, by yourself, truly. Okay. Do you need to take the practice exam before taking the real exam? It's not required. Okay. It's not required. But what happens through that practice exam is you take the exam just like you would. It's going to be a 90-minute version as opposed to a 3-hour version, but you're downloading the same virtual client. You're going through, a similar test format. And really what they say is once you can do that test in the 90 minutes and you can pass it, then you're probably ready to take the exam. Okay. We do have one person who took it in here, and that was Tyler. Okay. Do you remember or want to give any hints about, not really hints about it, but I mean, can you tell what your experience was with it?
Sure.
Did you take the practice exam?
I took the practice.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So basically, first you just receive a bunch of questions, like if you want to cut a hole in SolidWorks, what button, what tool would you use?
Right.
But then mostly you would have, then it gives you instructions like make this drawing here.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is usually a multiple choice.
Mm-hmm.
What is the weight of
Mm-hmm.
using these materials of this part? Then they ask you to make modifications. The next are actually press or answer. So you have to get it exactly right for the next three.
Correct. Yeah. So like you said, you basically create the model. They're going to ask you some mass properties. And then the first one like that is it gives you a couple options and pick the closest one. But then after that, you have to key in the actual value. And I think the number they say is they want you to be within 1% of the correct answer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how many parts do you remember doing on the exam?
So there was the first, the multiple,
Mhm.
there was the basic questions, that
Mhm.
was the part. Then there was two individual part sections, actually crafting parts, and then two other assemblies.
Okay, so like 2 parts and 2 assemblies. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
5 sections.
Okay.
Two
Yeah.
parts, 2 assemblies, and 1 general.
Yep. And how did you think you did kind of the same practice that we did that I'm going to have them do here. Did the practice that I gave you prepare you as far as what was expected on the exam, geometry wise and such?
Yeah, overall.
Yes. Okay. Good. What I did, and I'll kind of show you here. So if we go to the module, like I said, there's going to be the SolidWorks exam overview. This is just a link to SolidWorks website. And what they do here, they tell you, and Alex's question was, what is the minimum passing grade that you need? You need a 70% or better. Okay. And that's what they have here. And then on this exam, these are the elements that that they're going to be testing you on. So if you look here, you've done pretty much everything in that SolidWorks class besides global variables and then just kind of setting up the material and just making sure you can find mass properties. I think Ryan had you do a little bit of that, but it is something that's required. So I did a little review of that. And then it says here, you can retake the test in 14 days if you don't pass it. Okay. So that's just kind of basic information. So if I go back, then the next thing that we see here is going to be the CSWA guide and sample exam. So this is a PDF, but it's an interactive PDF that you have some live links that you can click. So this kind of goes through and it says about this exam or about this content, talks a little bit about, you know, the CSWA certification. The CSWA certification, just put a stamps of approval on that you know the basics of SolidWorks, okay? So if you go out and you apply for a job, besides saying, I got my associate's degree from WCTC, I also have my CSWA exam. It kind of puts, like I said, a stamp of approval on the work that you've done and the knowledge that you have about SolidWorks, okay? And it's their exam per SolidWorks. So it tells you a little bit about that. The details, what's going to be covered on it, okay? And you can look at that. And then here is how to prepare for an exam. Now, they have their places where you can go and pay for an online course. But what I have out here is like kind of our free version because of the work that you've done in 3D parametrics class. And then some of the stuff that I'm going to have you do here will, I think, prepare you pretty well for that. But if you wanted to do additional outside stuff, you certainly can. Now, how to take the practice exam. This is where it starts walking you through and the link that you're going to take to go to the practice exam. Now, once you go to this link, you're going to have to download this virtual tester. So this is just a download that you're going to put on the computer that you're going to be taking the exam on. You can do that here in our classroom, okay? Tyler, did you take it here? I forget.
Yes, I did.
You did. You took it here. And you took it in this room, I believe, right? Yeah. So you can download that. When you leave and you log off, you may or may not know, but they have like a rollback software. So it kind of erases anything special that you would have maybe put on so that the next person that comes in, it's not gonna affect that. When you do this also locally on your own computer, you're going to download that. And that's the software that really kind of watches what you're doing so that you're not looking at other websites or things like that. It kind of makes it official. So you don't have to go to a testing site. You can be here if you want to, but you can also do it at home. And by you know, activating that, you'll you know, do what you need. Then you'll run that software, do some agreeing to things, and then you're going to install that software, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then continue. And then this is where you're going to be filling in the information for yourself. Okay. This also signs you up for the SolidWorks site and it identifies you as somebody who is eligible to take the exam. Okay. I've already loaded your emails into SolidWorks as being eligible people during this term. When you put in your email right here, it has to be the school email and you have to identify WCTC as your school. Okay. If you don't use your WCTC email, it's not going to connect that you're eligible to take the exam. Does that make sense? Okay. So then once you continue here and you put your email in, you're going to get this screen. The first one that we see here, actually, the first one, you're going to see that you're going to have, oh, I'm sorry, down here, the sample exam available. And you're also, because I already have your email loaded, you're going to have the CSWA exam available. Don't take this one until you're ready. Take the sample exam first, okay? So you're going to click on the sample exam. Then you're going to answer some more questions. And then it's going to, you know, confirm you can begin the exam, and then it's going to go into it, okay? So a couple different things here. Then the test questions. Now, this is a PDF version of the test, but this would be up on the screen, okay? So you're not getting a paper copy. It's going to be up on the screen. And like Tyler said, the first part is going to be, look at this print or this section of the print and answer the question, okay? So there's a couple of those here at the beginning, some multiple choices. But then, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Then it's going to get into creating your first model, okay? This is the first model that you're going to be creating for the practice exam, all right? And what you're going to see is there's going to be these A, B, and C. These are the global variables that I was talking about. In one of those two videos that I showed you earlier, I show you exactly how to do that in those videos, okay? So you get how to do that. So then you're going to do this, you're going to create this model. You're going to use the global variables with these values. You're going to input the material. I also show you in those videos, you know, how to do that. And then you're going to pick the closest answer to the mass properties for the part that you created, okay? And then you're going to move on to the next part. Then part number 2, you're going to create this part. And now you're going to use that same base model, but now you're going to put some cuts in here, okay? So you're taking an existing part and you're making some revisions. And then your global variables change again. So you have to update those for the second version. And then you're going to be asked, what is your overall mass properties? You have to actually input the number now. So that's what Tyler was saying. The first one is they give you a multiple choice, get the closest answer. But then from there on, now you have to actually input the number. You aren't going to know if you're correct or not until you do the final submission. Is that correct, right, Tyler? Yeah. Yeah. So even if you put an answer in here, you're not going to know if that answer was right. And then they're going to have you do another version of it. Now, the video that I told you, they walk through the full practice exam on YouTube, does every one of these problems for you. So if you're looking at this like, I forgot how to do that, or I need a little bit of review and see somebody, just do it with that person. He does a great job. I really think he does. Okay. Did you watch all the videos, Tyler? You did. Yeah.
Really good.
He was. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, I'm not going to redo this because this is really good. So then once you have that part done, now that's one part. On the actual exam, you're going to have 2 separate parts that you're going to do and then have to do some revisions too and put your answers in. Then the next one is going to be an assembly. Okay. Then on the practice exam, they're going to have you download some parts that they've already like modeled, and then you're going to just going to do the assembly as you see it here. Okay. So you don't have to create these individual parts. You're going to download them. And again, it's really good practice because that's going to be what you're going to do on the exam as well, but for different assemblies. Okay. And once you arrange things the way that they're telling you to, you know, how to build this, they're going to give you some notes. They're going to give you some global variables again. And then you're going to, you know, pick the closest answer. And then you're going to change, you know, and then move things around. And then at the end here, excuse me, your final answers, this is the answer key for the final answers. So this will let you know if what you keyed in was good. Now, again, if you can do this exam, this practice exam in about 90 minutes and get a 70% or better, they say you're ready. Okay. Now, that's going to be one way to practice. All right. The other way to practice is going to be the parts that I have here, okay? So I've got assignment number 1, part models, okay? If you click on this is an assignment. You're going to notice that I have 3 models here. These are the models that I did on my CSWA exam, okay? So when I took the exam, I kind of took screenshots because I was like, okay, these are good sample examples. Now, I will tell you, now, Tyler, did you happen to have any of the same models that I did in my practice here?
No.
You didn't, but I had 2 other people who said they did. Yeah. It was one person said 2 of the models were the same and another person said 1 of the models was the same. So they do have different versions of the test. So you might randomly get one that I'm giving you as a practice, okay? Just so you know. So these are models that are going to mimic the type of work. So the first one here is going to be this radial swing block. So I have the PDF here for you. You will generate this model. Down in the lower left-hand corner, I have the information about the material and the global variables, and you can see the global variables are called out here. I've got a B, a C, and A is over here. Okay. And then you're going to create the model that you see here. And then you're going to notice that on here, let me go back to assignment number 1. You will know that you are correct when your total mass is 840.29 grams. Okay. If that number doesn't match or you don't get within 1% of that, then something wasn't quite right in your construction. Okay. So that's the first one. The second one is going to be a model of a wheel that's a part 1. So you're going to create the wheel first. And here's the wheel itself. Okay, it's kind of like a solid wheel. Here's the cross section. Here's all the information about the units. It's all metric units, 2 decimal places, global variables, and material. Okay. And sorry, if I go back here again to wheel 1, when your mass is 120,649 grams or within 1%, then your mass is good. You did a good part. Okay. And then the last one is going to be wheel part 2. Wheel part 2 is going to be taking wheel 1, but then adding the cutouts here. Okay. And rotating those around. And then again, getting the new mass properties for that. And as long as you get 64,041 grams, you're good. Okay. Now, once you do each one of these problems, what I want to see from you are screenshots of the model, including the tree, and then a screenshot of the mass properties. If you can get that all on one, that's good. But if you do need to make multiples, that's okay. All right. So 30 points total, 10 points for each one of these, okay, as the assignments. I just want you to hand these in, okay? Now, Tyler, I'm going to have you hand these in. This is good practice for you, okay? But the exam you won't have to do. I'm already going to give you the points for those because you already passed the exam. All right. So those are the part models. Assignment 1, assembly models. There's 2 assembly models here. There's a gripper assembly and a connecting rod assembly. Again, these are the things that I did on the exam, okay? So the gripper assembly is going to be worth 15 points. You're going to download each of the individual parts here. So they're already modeled for you. You don't have to draw them. And then what you're going to do is using this assembly drawing, you're going to assemble this in the orientation that you see here. You want to have this gripper so that it's 60 degrees apart. You're not creating the final print here. You're just putting the assembly together to these specifications, okay? You're not creating any drawings. You're only creating models and assembly models, all right? And once you put this together, it's going to ask you, where is the center of gravity? So you're going to find the center of gravity. And as long as your X's and your Y and your Z are equal to those values or within 1%, you're good. Okay. And then the same thing for the connecting rod assembly. Okay. And if I click on here, you're going to download those 4 parts. And this is the connecting rod assembly. And you need to find X, I think, in here, and then probably answer one of those questions for center of gravity, I'm assuming. Okay. And that's here. Oh, it just wants to know your value of X. As long as you're within that 1%, 25.49, you should be good to go. Okay. And here again, you're going to upload the screenshots showing me the assembly, showing me, you know, where your answer is here, whether it's dimensioned or you go into the mass properties, and then you're going to upload those. Each one of these assemblies, I think they're a little bit more work, so they're 15 points each, so a total of 30 points as well. Okay. So those are the 2 assignments associated with that. And these are going to prepare you again for the final exam. Now, when you're ready to take the final exam, you can just you don't have to let me know. You can take it whenever, okay? Because then you go back into that SolidWorks, you're going to select the exam, take the exam, okay? And then when you complete the exam and you pass it, you are going to simply take a screenshot, you know, of your score. And if you pass it, you get 50. If you don't, then you can take it again within 2 weeks, okay? And then you're going to pass it then. So I'm not worried. Everybody's going to pass it in the 8 weeks that we're here. Okay. You will. Okay. But I'm going to tell you the practice is important. Students who just jump in and don't do the practice tend to, you know, not pass on the first time. Tell me your feelings, Tyler, about the test. Did you think it was challenging?
Some parts were relatively easy. Other parts could be very challenging. You have to be very precise.
Yes, and you really have to take your time. Do you remember how long it took you to take the exam?
The entire 3 hours, and there was a couple questions I didn't answer.
Oh, really? I got through the whole exam. I had 15 minutes left. Okay, and I don't consider myself an expert or a guru. I didn't. I don't think I sped through it, but I didn't take my time either. I mean, I was working the entire 3 hours when I took it. I remember. Yeah. So truly, I believe that the practice exam and doing the assignments that I have here before you take it are definitely going to be to your advantage. Okay. Really good practice. So how I am going to treat this module, because some of us are at different levels. Okay. Some of us are maybe a little bit more on the, learning. Some of us have gone through that 3D parametric and are like, yeah, I want to jump in. So the first thing that I want you to do is make sure that you take that practice exam, go through that process, and then do the parts and models here. Okay. I would like a heads up when you take the exam, but I don't have to. Just let me know when it's done, upload your results, and then I can just go out and verify on the site because I can see, what people do. If you don't pass it the first time, don't worry about it. Not everybody does. Okay. But by doing the practice here, I think you will, feel like you have pretty good success. So going back up to the top here, it says start here. The first things that I would encourage you to do, our overview, we just did it. You don't have to watch this overview video, but setting up the SolidWorks file. So making sure that you have the units appropriately. So those are some good reminders, okay? Setting the dimensions appropriately, how to get the material in there, how to check the properties. Those are all going to be, part of that first one. Then the next one is going to be setting up those global variables, okay? And then the third one, or number 4 here, this is the full practice exam. So this is that other instructor going through and actually showing you how to model that bluish part that we were looking at on the practice exam, step by step by step. I am not grading you on the practice exam. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, okay? I highly recommend it. He did a great job, and it does a really good job of even helping you set up the virtual tester and stuff, okay? And then jump into the problems, the parts, the models, and the assemblies. And then once you're ready, you can take the exam. Now, as we look at our calendar here, you go over to my calendar. I am just batting 1,000 here. How come I have this down here? Oh, I think I just started it late. Okay. So we're starting today. So this week and next week, okay, are going to be for module 1. So this is going to be time in class that people can work on the assignments, the practice exam, and asking me any questions that you might have. Okay. And then you're welcome to take the exam during any one of these times as well. Okay. The assignment for the model, or for the assembly model, and the assignment for the part models, those are going to be due at the end of next week. Okay, so you basically have 2 weeks to do that, but you can hand it in sooner than that. All right, then what you have is your 7-day grace period after that to get those handed in. Now, the one that does not have the 7-day grace period or necessarily a due date is going to be the CSWA taking the actual exam. The only due date you have is by the end of the term. It's just that my first opportunity here, I can open up the window for a month at a time. So it'll be the first 4 weeks, and then I'll open it up again the second 4 weeks if we need to. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So that's all that I have for module 1 right now. And I'm going to let you guys work independently because, like I said, depending on where you're at and your level of comfort, you might be ready to go. You might be like, oh, I want to do a little practice. Okay. So, so that's all they have for module 1.